Today I want to talk about guided reading. This is only one academic intervention that can be used. Now, remember that every student is different. Just because this intervention works on one student does not mean that it will work on all students. If you are unsure about what the student's goals are, or if you have questions, ask your teacher. Ask your teacher about what information you need to know about the student or the student's IEP. It is important to have that information and therefore an understanding of the student's needs. Now, after that disclaimer, let's talk about what guided reading actually is. Guided reading has a goal. The goal is to help students develop strategies that they can therefore apply to their own independent work. It's less about working on the vocabulary, but it's about helping the students understand the meaning behind what they are reading. So how do we go about doing this? It starts with a group of 4 to 6 students. Some believe that the group has to have the same ability, some doesn't. Some believe that it isn't necessary. This will depend on the students, the classroom environment, and a host of variables that will need to be reviewed. After the groups are determined, each student is given their own copy of the book or text. Then there can be questions that need to be answered, hence starting the guiding. And there could be a lesson, a short lesson on independent reading. Another way to start the guided reading process is to give students questions that they need to answer before class. To achieve this, it is important to have the students read the text and answer the questions the night before. The answers do not have to be correct, but it is to start them thinking and implementing any previous lessons on independent reading that have happened. So now let's discuss the elements of guided reading. There are 7 elements that we want to have in our guided readings. 1, work with small groups. 2, matching the student's reading ability to the text level. 3, giving everyone in the group the same text. 4, introducing the text. 5, listening to individuals read. 6, prompting students to integrate their reading processes. And 7, engaging students in conversations about the text. When we are engaging in the guided reading, we need to remember these elements. Once we are actually in the guided reading session, there's a general structure that we can follow. Now remember, it will depend on the group how a guided reading session is structured. There is a general structure that we can follow, but there are numerous ways to tweak the guided reading depending on the needs of the students. Like everything, it will be trial and error. Again, if concerns arise, ask your teacher. So now let's talk about that general structure. We want to start off with familiar reading or familiar rereading. This is where we take notes and observe the students while they are reading a text that has already been done before in a guided reading session. The next thing is the introduction. This is like giving the students a movie preview. It is an opportunity to have the students share what they are noticing. This allows them to predict what they will read. This is a great way to allow the students to do this in a way that is comfortable for them. The next step is to actually start the reading. The students read quietly, and as the moderator, you go from student to student and ask them questions. My personal suggestion is to have one question that all the students answer, and then another question that can be tailored to the individual student depending on the goals of the student. With this step, prompting the student can be done. Doing this allows you to make notes about how the student is doing. Then after the reading time, it's time for discussion to happen. This is a student discussion, not a teacher discussion, a student discussion. This is when the students talk about what they have seen in their reading. Your job is to support them. And finally, there's the teaching moment. This is when all those observations that were made come into play. This is when instructions are given based on those observations. So how will this work with our children, with our students with autism? This intervention allows students to help each other. It brings in a social element that may be needed. The students are helping each other understand the information. It is less about the teacher teaching. It is about the students' peers helping to bring an understanding of the text. It can also increase the students' confidence. That confidence can help to increase their comprehension. Students with autism might struggle with confidence in being in groups or in reading. This intervention helps with that. The last item to discuss is why should we use this intervention and when? We always want to develop literacy, and we want to develop it in a safe area. And that's also how we want to develop social skills, is in a safe area. In both of these situations, it is about developing an area that the students feel safe in. Not all students with autism will respond to this intervention. That is important to know. If the goal is to work on independent reading skills or to develop an understanding of social situations, then this intervention is ideal. Good luck implementing a guided reading session. If you have questions, do not forget to ask your teacher. It will go smooth. Just make sure you have patience. Good luck.